This is Let's Talk, getting to the root causes of important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes that your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492. That again is 415-663-8492.
Thank you, Stephen. And I'm Shelley Rugg, Stephen Horwitz co-host.
Hello there.
Let's Talk. And we have two guests in the studio today to talk about veganism, being vegan, vegan lifestyle. I know I saw someone wrinkled their nose. This is Dave Osborn is with us here today. And Dave has been a frequent contributor to the Reyes Light, talking about this very topic. And we also have Hope Bohanec. She's the founder of Compassionate Living. And I'm excited to have this conversation today to talk about what it means to be vegan, why choose that path, and what it means overall to our health and the health of our planet. Anybody want to start talking about... So... Yeah, Dave, when did you when did you change to a vegan diet?
Well, I like to, first of all, sort of make a distinction between, there's different types of veganism. My particular type is called a whole food plant-based diet, which is what I've been writing about in the Light. And veganism can be unhealthy veganism and it can be healthy veganism. And I think that it's important that I like to really stress eating whole foods,
yes,
plant-based foods. So I think I'd like to start it off like that. I don't like the word. The reason I wrinkle my nose is I don't like the word veganism because it tends to take on a negative connotation in some people's minds.
I know you said that, and I think it's more that it's just a way of living. It's a choice.
Yes, it's a lifestyle.
Right.
Yes.
And it's not a bad thing.
No, it's absolutely not a bad thing.
Absolutely not.
Go ahead and pipe in, Hope.
Well,
what would you like to add?
Myself, personally, I've been vegan now for 30 years. And for me, it started actually because of the environment. That's the reason that I went vegan 30 years ago, was the environmental impact. I learned about it through Greenpeace and other environmental organizations. It was much more prominent in the environmental community then.
More prominent 30 years ago than it is today.
Well, as far as them not being so afraid to share the information, because now, environmental groups tend to not want to tell people what to do with their lives just because of their donors, really. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Basically, I went vegan myself because of environmental reasons. But then
you want to describe those reasons? What really caught your attention?
Yeah, well, climate change, even back then, 30 years ago, we were absolutely concerned in the environmental community about climate change, water pollution, deforestation, the loss of biodiversity and species. One of the number one reasons for animals being federally listed on the endangered or threatened species list is because of animal agriculture. So there's a huge impact.
So can you talk about that a little bit? That's really caught my attention. How does animal agriculture cause other animals to go on the endangered species list?
Well, just like we have, right here in Point Reyes. There's, a third of the Point Reyes National Seashore is leased to cattle ranching. And cattle and dairy ranching, basically takes over an area, and wildlife is pushed out. And there's also predator control where people are actually killing wildlife, with poisons and shooting and that kind of thing.
To keep their numbers down. Yeah.
Exactly. So absolutely, there's wildlife conflict, and the wildlife lose. So that's a big issue and a big problem. Fencing can cause, problems with migration pattern, all this kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
We could go on and talk about the Thule elk. I'm right here.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 500,000 elk in this area.
Good grief.
Yeah, and that's natural. That's how it's supposed to be. But they have been completely pushed out. Now there's maybe around 400, which is
that's stunning. Yeah.
Very, very, very sad. And now there's thousands and thousands of cows, unnecessarily being raised for food that we don't need. That's unhealthy. So it's very sad. It's a sad situation and very unnatural. And I just, like I said, going back to my story, I started out because of all these detrimental environmental impacts. But what really drew me in and what got me active, actually, and now, I've been doing animal rights activism for the last 25 years, was the plight of the animals in animal agriculture. It is absolutely so sad what they can suffer.
Right.
Just on the standard procedures that occur day to day in animal agriculture is, torturous.
Right.
It's horrible. It's horribly cruel.
I think we will talk more about that. We do have a caller. And caller, before I put you on the air, make sure you turn down your radio, and we have to watch our language on the air. So, caller, you are live. Let's hear your name, please.
It's Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
I'm downstairs, and I did turn down my radio.
Good job.
I want to say that I completely respect a vegan diet, and I practice it not 100%, but I believe that whole foods are the right way to go. But I really wish that somehow within this whole context there could be addressed the issue of just too many people and overpopulation of people, and the fact that people are causing a lot of the problems. It's not the cows that are choosing to be there. It's the people that are choosing to put the cows there. And I don't know if you've been out and about, but there just seems to be this reluctance to talk about overpopulation of humans in the big picture. So I just want to throw that out there into the mix, and I will listen.
Okay. Yes. It looks like Hope's ready to comment on that.
Well, thank you for that, by the way.
Thanks for calling,
absolutely.
Amanda.
I would completely agree. I absolutely feel that is very much an issue, and it's like the vegan issue. It's one that people don't want to talk about and they don't like to talk about. So I would agree with you completely. However, we are kind of focused on veganism and the diet and the animals today. And what I'd say to that's an interesting connection is that, we often think of humans as being the overpopulated species, eating up all the resources, which is absolutely true. But because of the dietary options and choices that we're making, really, it's even bigger than that is the animals are so completely overpopulated in the billions and billions because we're breeding them in excessive amounts. There's so many animals that are eating up the resources, wasting fossil fuel use, energy use. There's massive consumption in animal agriculture that, there's refrigeration and lighting and heating. These are indoor environments, the slaughtering process. It takes so much fossil fuel and energy. And so, really, we have created a situation where these animals are so incredibly overpopulated that it's yet another overpopulation problem that we can reduce with our diet, that we could just, all we need to do is make the choices at the grocery store to shift our diet to more plant-based foods, and we can curb this overpopulation problem of the animals.
What were you wanting to add, Dave?
Yes, I'd like to add, in terms of just pure statistics, it takes 10 calories of energy input to make 1 calorie of animal protein input. And it's a total waste of energy. And what happens with most of the cropland, it's 80%, I believe, is for animals. If you converted all of the soy and corn that's currently raised for animals, for our diet, our lifestyle of eating meat, you would be able to feed another 7 billion people on this planet. So it's just a matter of pure resource use.
You know, I just want to address that for a second because I've read that too when I did my research. But I think there's enough, from what I understand, there's plenty of food to feed people right now, and the big problem is distribution.
That's true.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily, you can mention statistics, but it's not necessary that we want to, that the big problem is not enough food. It's how to get there. I've got a question, too, because you talked about all those elk that were here. If 500,000 elk, in this area, well, I don't think we have 500,000 cows in this area. So in some sense, you're talking maybe more methane, more animal.
Yes,
I just like to see that addressed.
Right.
I'd like
Well,
David?
I want to say, just owning a ranch, that what cattle do is they have very wide feet and they totally trample the earth. And the elk have clove feet and they turn up the soil. So in sheer numbers, you would have much healthier soil and much better grasslands and be able to support many more animals than you do with cattle now. Cattle just totally degrade the environment. They cause erosion. All the feces goes into the streams. It's
and
a
that's
whole
because
different...
they're confined in
Yes.
areas. That's another problem, is because they're fenced in and confined, they can really just degrade in one area. Whereas the elk were migrating and were able to move and flow along with the land much greater.
I understand that, but one of the chief reasons for people not eating meat, for example, is the environmental issue, and I personally think that's a big issue. The methane gas and the water pollution, etc. I won't even talk about the health, but you guys are talking about all this. You're not really talking about lowering the population of animals. Really, from what I'm hearing, is you're talking about the fact that perhaps animal life will actually increase on the planet rather than decrease.
No, right now we have billions of farmed animals that we have bred unnaturally and persistently. A dairy cow, we breed her every year of her life. She is giving a calf. That's completely unnatural to that species. She would maybe be pregnant once every 5 to 7 years, but she'll be dead in 5 to 7 years.
Well, where do you get this number billions? That just seems like a pretty... Where does that come? How do you get that number?
You can go to the USDA and find how many...
In the United Nations as well.
Yeah, there's many...
But you're talking about the United States or worldwide?
Worldwide.
Oh, okay, got it.
But, it's still in the billions. What we're talking about is wanting to not artificially breed these animals. And then animals like the elk and other animals would go to natural populations. They'd be in natural populations. And like we were talking about earlier, off the air, what would happen to these farmed animals? Well, a lot of them actually can become feral and live natural lives, like chickens. Chickens can absolutely be feral. And if you've ever gone to Kauai, Hawaii, there's feral populations of chickens everywhere, but they're not overbreeding because there's not human intervention. So they're naturally breeding down numbers that would just be, natural to their species.
And we couldn't make omelets out of those things, out of those eggs that they're laying naturally?
I think
we're not allowed to do that.
The few remaining carnivores would probably eat some omelets. But,
yes,
I see.
Yeah.
But that's their high cholesterol and saturated fat option.
You're listening to Let's talk. Call in radio on KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, and 92.3 in San Geronimo Valley, and streaming live online at kwmr.org. So please call in to get in this conversation, 415-663-8492 or 8317. Yes, Dave.
I wanted to sort of address Steve said when he said diet aside. I wanted to just give a little bit of my history. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer about 10 years ago, and I weighed 220 pounds, and I had high blood pressure. And I was consulted with radiologists and surgeons, and the outcomes of those approaches were 50-50 incontinence or impotence, and I figured between the two it would be 100%. So I started doing some research and found that you could actually really either stop or reverse cancer growth, and also obviously the benefits of the not eating animal cholesterol, because I had high cholesterol as well. So in about
you're a mess.
I was a typical American.
Most Americans are.
Yeah. I was eating lots of pepperoni pizza and, tri-tip, and I was a big barbecuer, as everybody knows, at all the chicken barbecues, and I had a standard American diet. So I switched to a whole food plant-based diet. I lost 80 pounds. My cholesterol dropped 70 points. I have never felt better. I don't have any aches and pains, and I've controlled my prostate cancer. And that's the one thing that I had mentioned to Hope earlier is I have a firm belief that we have a lot more power individually in our lives than we are actually led to believe. And we actually have power over our health. We have power over the environment. We have power over the animals. And we can make the world a much better place, less money going to pharmaceuticals, improve the environment. And it's really being a vegan is the, I say this and I get emotional.
Okay.
Is the most important thing anybody can do in their life for the planet, their health, and for the animals.
Absolutely.
Thank you for saying that,
Yeah.
Dave. Yeah, I know that, people who haven't really made a deep dive into not only their diet, but their awareness of choices that they make, not just with food or animal products, but just anything we do in our lives, who we choose to shop with, has an impact. And we have to start to raise our awareness about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and a great way to do that is coming up. It's something that we wanted to talk about and announce. Dave is organizing, and I'm helping out with the Point Reyes Mindful Eating Film and Food Fest. So we're going to be showing 4 films at the dance place. Palace.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Dance Palace. I'm not from Point Reyes, obviously. I just outed myself.
That's okay.
I live up in Pengrove.
Close enough.
So I'm close enough. I'm still local. But yes, the Mindful Eating Film Festival, we're going to be showing 4 films with a variety of themes, environmental, health, and the animals. And it's just going to be, I think, a wonderful way to get a lot of great education around this issue. And that's going to be on Saturday, February 2nd, all day. So.
Starting at what time?
First movie starts at noon. We'll open the doors at 11 for some food and expo. We're going to have tables and nonprofits and some interesting stuff.
Great.
Organic beer and wine will be served.
And then you're going to also have Q&As after the films, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Hey, guys, we have a caller. So, caller.
Hi.
Hi, please tell us your name.
I'm Melinda.
Hi, Melinda. Thanks for calling.
I would like to hear your panel speak about a really... I'd like to hear them talk about foods, the kind of diet, the kind of recipes, things that are unusual that we might not know about because we like to have a chicken every week or whatever. So I'm pretty much vegan, but I do. I go out, when I go to my daughter's, there's chicken and there's always some meat around it, and then once in a while I crave it. But I would like to be filled in on a really good, wide variety of vegan alternatives. And I also like to mention, don't buy processed food. It may be vegan, but don't buy stuff in packages. It's just supporting the industrial food industry, even though it says, oh, it's organic, it's vegan, it's no GMOs, it's no cholesterol. No, it's what is it? Oh, no gluten.
Right.
They put that on fruit now.
Right. I know, it's ridiculous.
So, tell me some recipes.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Melinda.
Yeah,
thanks for calling.
Also.
I can actually direct you to a great cookbook that I like. It's called Straight Up Food by Kathy Fisher, and it's a no salt, no oil, no sugar cookbook, which that'll freak even the hardiest vegan out, not to have sugar and oil and salt. But I actually, a little side note, I went to a 7-day water fast at True North Health, which is featured in the movie What the Health, and I actually broke my addiction to those things, and now whole food tastes so much better, just natural than it does with. And there's things you can use that what your tongue looks for is excitement. So you can use vinegars and mustards and different types of flavors, citrus.
Fermented vegetables.
Fermented vegetables.
I really like to do that.
And you got to do it without salt. You have to use a little in that. But so Straight Up Food, I'll give you an example. We had a wonderful Christmas dinner, and I made what in that cookbook is it's the brown rice lentil loaf. Oh, yeah. And my son made a wonderful cashew-based, creamy, mushroom, garlicky, what do you call it?
Sauce?
Sauce to put over the top. Gravy.
Okay, gravy. All right.
And it was a wonderful meal. It was plenty dense. There was lots of protein in it. It was very healthy. It had celery and mushrooms and everything mixed in, and nuts and things. So there's lots of things you can make out of lentils, and they're very antioxidant. So you have lentils, you have beans, you have brown rice, you have quinoa. There's all kinds of good heavy stuff you can eat. Starches, sweet potatoes.
Yeah, and I agree. Flavor is key. I've been served, vegan soups or, vegan dishes before that have been so bland. And I'm thinking, why? They're, spices and browning things, caramelizing. None of that is not vegan.
Just got to know how to do vegan, and it's real easy. It's really easy. And what I often tell people is, and cookbooks are great, but if you don't have access or can't find, easily cookbooks online, there are so many recipes. You never have to buy another cookbook ever. Any recipe you can think of. And what I often tell people that are making a transition and are wanting to explore vegan eating is whatever you're familiar with, whatever you generally cook, just Google it vegan. Let's say you make lasagna. Google vegan lasagna and make a vegan version of what you're familiar with. And that's a great way to start transitioning.
Yeah, I agree.
Makes a lot of sense.
There's also a website called Forks Over Knives, which is a great resource.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
There's some wonderful resources online, yeah.
You remind me, I was talking with my wife earlier before the show, and she pointed out that one thing is to give up meat and dairy. The other thing to do is put together a healthy diet. So, and you guys are, you're addressing that, but maybe some people think, oh, well, I'm become a vegan, I won't eat animal products. But if they don't have a decent diet to go with it, and of course, even people that eat meat have lousy diets.
Now you can have the pizza and beer diet, all vegan.
Yeah.
So you have to do
we
it
were
healthy.
talking about like Skippy peanut butter and Wonder Bread,
And Oreos are all vegan. So it's important to absolutely have.
So what are some of the
grain.
mistakes people make when they do that? When they say, "Okay, I'm going to call myself a vegan and follow some new
The
rules."
mistake is processed foods, and I think that one when you start to change your lifestyle, because one of the things where I started morphing into this environment in the animal piece of being plant-based, that you tend to become more disciplined with your eating too, because you're not going and eating junk food. I mean,
you're more mindful,
and you're more mindful, and you're not sucked into the packaged fats and oils and things, because you're beginning to see that when you eat an orange or you eat a potato, you feel satisfied. If you go to a Chinese restaurant and eat white rice, you leave and you're hungry, within minutes.
Right.
So you start eating more nutritionally packed, dense foods. And so becoming more disciplined, I mean, a typical meal for us is a baked potato or a baked sweet potato, some steamed greens, and a big salad. And then fresh fruit for dessert. Real simple, highly nutritious, and really good. You don't have to spend any time, like Hope said. It's really easy.
But if, and I just want to throw in that if you do have a craving for something, though, there's a vegan version of anything. And, and
chorizo sausage.
That's right. In moderation, every now and again, some vegan ice cream or whatever, you really want to have those cravings. You can take care of it all vegan. And there's amazing food out there, but just in moderation.
Miyoko.
That's
her
right.
Cashew cheeses.
Miyoko's cheese right here. She has a wonderful farm sanctuary called Rancho Compasión in Nicasio. And she's co-organizing and helping us with the Mindful Eating Filmed Fest. So Miyoko's cheese is amazing. She has incredible vegan cheese made from cashews.
Mm-hmm. There's no casomorphins in them.
That's right. Very healthy. She has a good ingredient.
What's the casomorphin?
It's the drug that's in all dairy that
makes it addictive.
It makes it addictive. It makes the calf bond with the mother, whether the calf likes the mother or not.
Huh.
It brings them to the udder to eat, and that's what we get when we eat cheese. It's concentrated, so it's like 10 times more concentrated than milk. And when you eat cheese, you feel satiate, you feel calm, and it makes you feel, it's a drug, and we
I get that,
have
yeah.
that. Yeah.
I wonder if I could use that for myself,
Yes.
Cheese is the drug, Stephen.
I have one
You can't
thing.
shoot it up, though.
It's funny. When I was growing up, we never had pork in our house because I'm Jewish. But, they made one exception, and that was bacon. And I'm wondering if vegans can make that exception, too. Can we still have bacon?
We sure can. It's called benevolent bacon, and it's wonderful.
Yes, it's a coconut bacon.
That's right. Benevolent bacon is my favorite, but there's also fakin bacon. There's all kinds of great bacons out there.
Yeah.
So yes, you can have bacon too.
Well, I think I am someone who's in transition to a vegan diet. And so I do get hung up a little on cheese in particular. And I've tried the vegan cheeses, and I think that, like a lot of things, we have to kind of teach our palate.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And it can take a little time. And so you have to try and then try again. And also, the longer you can stay away from the real cheese, and you start to develop a taste for this alternative.
I'll just say that cashew cheese is real cheese. What you're staying away from is dairy cow cheese.
That's right.
But it's interesting. I'll have an interesting story about that. It's what we get used to.
Right.
And it's what your palate gets used to. And so I personally, like I've said, have been vegan for 30 years. I went to Amy's drive-through in Rohnert Park that has, all vegetarian, and anything can be made vegan. And I got a milkshake. I was very excited. And I ordered a vegan milkshake.
Oh.
But they gave me a dairy milkshake, and I didn't know. And I took one sip, and I was like, ew, what is this?
Yeah,
There's something wrong with
your
this.
Your palate had changed.
I thought it had gone bad.
Right.
Because I hadn't had dairy in 30 years, and it tasted horrible to me. So, yeah, it's interesting what you get used to. And then I got the vegan version, and it was delicious.
Right.
We're the only species that drinks the milk of another species.
That's right.
It's called infant bovine growth fluid in Dr. Clapper's description of it.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm going to take a little station break here. You are listening to KWMR, Point Reyes Station, 90.5 in Point Reyes, 89.9 Bolinas, and 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley. And KWMR is supported by our listener members and by Marin Agricultural Land Trust, a member-supported nonprofit organization working to preserve Marin County farmland. On the web at malt.org. That's MALT.org. Smiley's Schooner Saloon and Hotel in Bolinas is the oldest bar west of the Mississippi and is a proud supporter of KWMR. Established in 1851, Smiley's offers newly refurbished accommodations, libations, music, and community entertainment. Event listings, advance tickets, and hotel booking information online at smileysaloon.com. That's SMILEYS saloon.com. KWMR is supported by our listeners and by Rotary of West Marin, a leadership organization supporting community projects locally and globally in support of a world where people unite to create change. Guests, welcome to meetings 8 a.m. Wednesdays next to the Rotary Peace Garden in downtown Point Reyes Station. Online at westmarinrotary.org. And we're going to continue with Let's Talk Call-In Radio. I'm Shelley Rugg and Stephen Hurwitz.
That's me.
And we have our guests in studio today, Dave Osborn and Hope. Say your name.
Bohanec.
Bohanec. Thank you, Hope. And we're talking about why people choose to be vegan, how to be vegan, the impact that choosing a vegan diet can have on the planet. What else?
Well,
there's social justice.
There's social justice. There's also, I would add, I mean, those are the three big ones, of course. But I would also add for myself, there's a spiritual component to it, of what kind of world do we want to live in? Do we want a compassionate world where there's not billions of animals languishing and suffering in confinement barns and on animal agriculture? And that's, I think, one of the reasons we chose to call the Film Fest Mindful Eating, the Mindful Eating Film Fest, because, we're now bringing this kind of awareness into our lives. The mindfulness has become very popular. Of course, it comes from, Eastern philosophies like Buddhism, Hinduism, where we're trying to be more aware of our actions, more aware of, what we do affects ourselves, affects our health, affects others. I think that taking a beat and taking a moment to one of the most important things we do in our lives is eating. That's, we do it every day. It affects so much more than we realize. And one thing that I encourage people to do around mindful eating is to take a little more time when going to I know we're very busy, of course, and sometimes there just isn't the time, but to try to take a little more time when going to the grocery store, when eating, to really take a moment and think how much was affected by your meal, who was affected, who suffered, and in the grocery store, taking a beat when we pick up a product and thinking, wow, okay, is there a better option? Maybe is there an organic version? Is there a version that doesn't have packaging? Is there a vegan version of this? To take a moment to really be mindful of what we're doing and how it affects the whole planet.
Right. Listener, if you'd like to get in on this conversation, please call 415-663-8492. And
one of the things, Will Tuttle has a great book called The Peace Diet, which
the World Peace Diet.
World Peace Diet, yes, and it talks about all of the angst that's in all these animals that are being treated just terribly on factory farms, and how that kind of adrenaline and fear actually goes into the protein that we're eating, because the muscle in beings actually accumulates chemicals and pesticides and things, so that all those kinds of vibrations and chemicals and things that are harmful to us are concentrated. So when we do eat meat and cheese and dairy, and we end up with those in our body. And his point in his book is that one of the reasons our world is so violent and so filled with suffering is because that's how we treat the other beings on the planet. And it's important for us to be aware when we do make a food choice as to that kind of impact, like Hope was saying.
Yeah, right. Hey, we do have a caller. Caller, you are on the air. Please tell us your name and turn down your radio.
I am David, and I don't have any substantial disagreements with what you folks are saying, but there's one thing that you said a while ago that I wanted to take issue with, that if everybody ate a vegan diet, that we would be able to have 7 billion more people on the planet, and that's 7 billion more iPhones and automobiles. And, we are in overall not a species that's careful about anything.
You're right.
And so whether it's food or iPhones or cars or clothes, cotton made by slaves in Indonesia, and, all sorts of things, humans are very reckless.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us were wanting more people on the planet.
No, my point is that the amount of food that is raised solely for, mainly it's the rich world's diet, is enough food to feed another 7 billion people. I wasn't insinuating that the planet needs another 7 billion, but
right.
But I think the point of the wasteful, exactly to your point, that we are wasteful, and we're wasting lots of resources on the raising of animals for food.
That's one way we are wasting.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. We're raised as consumers, and we eat like we're raised like consumers.
I just like to add to that is that I think it's really obviously a wealthy population that has this issue. China is now with increased wealth. They're adding more meat to their diets, and they're also experiencing obesity for the first time. Stuff like McDonald's that's expanding operation in China. And from what I understood, and maybe you could correct me, but meat used to be a condiment for Chinese food, and now it is the food.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. In China as well as India, meat consumption is going up because they are gaining more wealth. They want to be more westernized. They want to be more like us, unfortunately. And
fat, and healthy.
Yeah, and it took us, decades and decades of a heavy meat diet to learn that is detrimental to our health, to the planet. And we're learning that now, a very painful lesson with heart disease and diabetes, and literally painful. We're now changing. Luckily, we're starting to wake up and starting to switch our diets. But unfortunately, the rest of the world is looking at us and wanting to be like us. So I think the best thing we can do is, to focus locally, get this going as quickly as possible as far as the information getting out about how detrimental meat is to the planet, to our health, to the animals themselves, so that we can make the shift here, and hopefully it will translate and transfer to other areas. But I know that there are a lot of organizations that are now focused in those other countries, organizations that are trying to reduce the amount of meat eaten, and they're starting to open, offices in these countries because, it's certainly a concern.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to add was economically, the switch to a plant-based diet would put the squeeze on all of these producers. And one of the reasons that they are expanding in other countries is because of that need to always make a profit, always be bigger, get bigger. And they're ending up with people, it's very much like the tobacco industry. I mean, people in other countries smoke like crazy. They don't show you the cancer wards. They don't show you the slaughterhouses. They don't show you the chicken coops with 7 stories high of chickens, defecating on each other, and it's a horrendous condition that's brought on by economics. And we can have a huge impact by simply, when you go to the grocery store, like Hope said, you think about it, you go to the produce section instead of the meat section.
That's right. Interestingly, though, large meat producers are seeing the future and seeing that the future is vegan, and they are actually putting their money in that direction. Tyson Foods, I believe it has invested in cell-based agriculture, taking the cells from animals and growing. It's like lab-based,
but the creeps.
Very interesting. interesting stuff. But
our need for cholesterol and fat will be grown in a test tube now.
But my point is that they're looking for alternatives because they see that this is detrimental to the planet and this is not going to last. That we can't feed 7 billion people and continue the trajectory that we're on. We've got to reduce the amount of animals that we're eating. It's just not going to be sustainable. And they realize that. And I believe there's another large meat producer that has invested in Beyond Meat, which is a plant-based meat company. So they're moving in that direction. They see the writing on the wall.
And that's in our social circles, we call that a transitional diet. In other words, you get to a point where you don't really like the taste of a hamburger anymore. So when I eat a Beyond Beef burger, which I've had, they're wonderful, they're great, but I just don't want that anymore. When you start a whole food plant-based diet, you change your whole taste and you change how you perceive what you're eating, and it's so it's a transition.
I still love a Beyond Beef burger
once in a while.
I've tried it
once in a while.
Like yeah.
It's like Roger Siskel or Gene Ebert said that going to McDonald's is great once every 17 years or so.
Well, that brings up a good point, though. Can we make exceptions? You're at a party and somebody offers something that has meat in it, and instead of insisting on who you are in your diet, is it okay to taste
the social issues?
Taste the stew.
It depends how courageous you are.
I see.
Well, I think like Dave said in the very beginning, there's lots of different kinds of vegans, and I think that it's all a matter of stages and steps and transitions and what's comfortable for you. So there's even a kind of a category called freegan, where you wouldn't buy it, you don't support it with your money, but if there's a cupcake on the table at your friend's house, you'll eat it. So there's all kinds of different realms.
A non-vegan cupcake.
Right, that's what I meant. And personally, I feel that it's about progression and not perfection. Trying to do the best that you can that day. Whatever is the best for you that day. And as long as you're on a good trajectory, you're trying to reduce animal products, increase good plant foods, as long as that continues, that's great, and however you feel in your heart to do that, then I think that you're on the right track. And the social issue is huge. That's a part that's difficult for people. They want to still feel connected socially with family, things like that. So you have to weigh those things. And one of the best things that you can do is really to bring your own vegan food to share with everyone, and then they see how wonderful vegan food is and they want to partake with you. So there's lots of ways to navigate those social issues.
I've had many instances where I've gone out on a business dinner and everybody gets a big steak and I get the side order of Brussels sprouts, and when they've finished pounding down all this animal protein and heavy food, they look at my plate and they go, I should have got that.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, who called in, are you still there? Okay, Dave has hung up. All right. Well, thanks for calling. Dave and I had talked before about traveling, and that, when you're traveling and you don't have access to a kitchen and you're sort of having to choose to dine out, and, it's hard to find vegan restaurants, although I'm discovering that there
Depends
are
on where you go,
more
though.
and more opening up all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they even have apps.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Happy
right.
Cow.
Happy Cow. Happy Cow is a vegan traveler's friend. HappyCow.com is wonderful.
World over.
That's right. You type in whatever city you're going to, and it'll show you all the vegan and veg
Health food stores.
Right, veg-friendly options. And actually, isn't that part of the adventure of traveling? is really trying to discover things, right, and looking for things. Maybe if you really dig for the vegan options, you're going to discover more about the place. So, you got to look.
That's what I always think when I'm traveling, yeah.
Well,
I see what I can't eat out there.
Oh, well,
that's not exactly what I meant.
We've started a practice of bringing an ice chest with foods so that, at the least we have some options to fill in the gaps if we have a hard time finding restaurants. But it has been fun. I was in Southern California in Culver City, and I used my phone to look up a vegan restaurant, and we found this really cool little spot.
Yeah, see,
and so it was a lot of fun.
And Europe has become so vegan friendly. It's amazing.
But France. I'm glad you brought that up about Europe. France has just now passed a law that prohibits using alternative foods using traditional words like cheese, for example. They're saying you can't use the word cheese because cheese is already taken as a dairy product.
Well, we're having those issues here now too.
Yeah. There's something in that as far as I'm concerned.
But don't we have nut butters and, coconut meat? And I mean, there's all kinds of ways of using those
meat,
terms.
That's a good example, though.
And, there's cocoa butter. I mean that I mean we use these terms more for the consistency of the thing, not necessarily where it came from,
and for our ability to communicate about it.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what France is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a reactionary force.
Well, and
French.
I mean, could you imagine being, an almond milk producer or a cashew cheese producer, as Miyoko is facing right now? She's facing a lawsuit saying that she can't use the term butter. And, here she's
She has a wonderful vegan
and
butter,
here
too.
she's trying to produce a product that is so much better environmentally, so much better for the animals, better for our health. And she's going to have to face a lawsuit over a term.
Zutter. I mean,
Well, no, she should be able to call it butter. Why not? It just seems very...
it's more the use of what you're doing rather than what it is.
Butter
that's
what I mean. And consistency,
toast.
Exactly. So it's just the dairy industry, using their power and being afraid of what's this transition that's happening for better health for people.
Talk about power. The farm industry in the last farm bill, they had a clause that prohibits Congress from holding hearings regarding the environmental consequences of agriculture.
That's right, and air quality issues. And,
literally written into the farm bill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah.
I know, and
that's how popular. That's how
right.
powerful they are.
We cannot think that the administration we have in right now is going to do anything to help this planet. We've got to do it. This is where we personally need to take action so much more dramatically than before. Even with water issues, water issue, of course, is so huge in California. We have drought issues. If you look at vegetables and grains, comparing the amount of water that's used, dairy uses 3 times the amount of water, eggs use 10 times the amount of water, and chicken meat uses 14 times the amount of water as vegetable or grain farming. So, that's just a little taste of how much environmental impact there is with these animal products, and how when we choose plant-based food, we as a society can counter these problems that our regulation and our EPA is not taking care of.
Yeah, one of the films that we're showing, actually, is the first film at noon, is Cowspiracy, which goes through many of these statistics that Hope is going through. It's amazing what kind of environmental degradation and depletion is going on a daily basis. The use of cutting down of rainforests for crops. They grow they have the cattle graze after the rainforest is cut down. Then they raise soy and corn, and it's something like
that's going to feed the animals, not people.
It's all animals. It's six football fields a second, something like that. It's just a staggering amount of land.
And that's not feeding the people of the Amazon. It's
Exactly.
coming up here.
It's coming to the rich countries.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one last thought on the environmental thing. This is really interesting. I found this out recently. There was a declaration made by the Alliance of World Scientists. Now, this Alliance of World Scientists is 15,000 scientists from 184 countries. So it's this huge, huge body of scientists. And they did an extensive study trying to find what the best thing personally we can do to help the planet, what our personal impact, what the best thing that we can do personally to make change for the environment. And their conclusion was they wanted to encourage people to avoid all animal products as the most impactful personal action that we can take to curb climate change. I mean, that's from 15,000 scientists. Amazing.
You are listening to Let's Talk Call-In Radio on KWMR. We're talking about veganism, and if you'd like to call in, there's about 8 minutes left, 415-663-8492 or 8317.
One thing, can I add something real quick?
Yes.
I think it's important also to look at what Hope and I are talking about is a lifestyle change. It's not a diet.
That's right.
There's so many, everybody likes to label this as a diet, and it really isn't. I mean, we've been bringing up all these things about traveling and having to look for a different place to eat, find different restaurants, different friends even. So it really is a lifestyle, and that's why we're doing this film festival, because we want everyone to have the data and the ability that you can resist the piece of cheese when someone at a party comes over to you and says, "Would you like some cheese?" You simply say, "No, thank you." It's I'm fine, and I love to be a little bit of a wiseacre and say something like, I don't like the coagulated bovine liquid, but that's okay. I mean, you can always make little jabs if you have the right.
Careful,
audience.
we have a bad reputation for that.
I know we do.
That's right. Well, yeah, I think that there is kind of this sense that people can feel that some vegan people might think they're better because they're making better choices.
Yeah.
They're taking the higher ground.
Well,
the higher
I
road.
think that to some extent, I'd hate to say it doing what I do, but I think that the more aware, this is what this whole program has been about, is the more aware you are of the impact of what you put in your mouth has on environment and your health and on the animals, you start to make more mindful choices. And I think that's really important to get from this. I will never judge someone about eating meat. I will do everything in my power to give them all the reasons why they shouldn't be doing it in a diplomatic way. But there are vegans that are very abrasive, and they're just like everybody else. People that have a belief can put people off.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some vegans do get snarky about it, and I think it's a frustrating thing for us. I mean, we see the solution to so many problems so easily. People just making the switch. Like right now, for instance, when we're talking about curbing climate change, mostly the conversation is around fossil fuel, changing to renewable energy. But that's going to take infrastructure change and government involvement and billions of dollars and all of that. We could ease the problems considerably just by the choices of food we make. That's
a big deal, though. I just think you're making it a little too simplistic.
It's not, though.
What's the population of people that are employed in this industry? Probably hundreds of thousands of people. All of a sudden, you've got a lot of people. I'm not saying they should be in work. I'm just saying there are so many.
Well, it's not going to happen overnight.
No,
Everything
I'm just saying there's
slowly.
so many intended consequences.
But you see what's happening with agriculture, for instance, with the organic movement. I mean, it's been growing at 20% a year, something like that. And there's farmers that are doing conventional and they're switching over to organic.
Yeah, I understand.
There's agricultural people that have given up their pig farms and opened up organic farms. So it's not going to happen overnight, but it has to start with us.
Yeah.
Hope, would you like to speak briefly about your book, The Ultimate Betrayal? Subtitle,
Sure.
Is There Happy Meat?
Sure. So I did extensive research in Sonoma and Marin counties of the farms out here, the dairy farms, chicken farms, egg farms that are on a smaller scale, using labels like humane and sustainable and organic and free range.
Right.
And I did extensive research on those and exposed what I found both ethically and environmentally. And interestingly, when I went into the research on the book, maybe it was like 2013 when I started the research, I thought that I was going to be saying over and over, well, organic's a little better, but going vegan's best. Or, yeah, free range is better, but going vegan's best. No. That's not what I found, unfortunately. I found that actually it can be even worse. And here's an example. Organic dairy. In organic dairy, it's intensive. The animals are, kept pregnant their entire lives. Each year, the babies are taken away at birth. It's very psychologically and emotionally traumatizing for them to be separated, taking the babies away. This still happens on all dairy operations. But in organic dairy, so in conventional farming, the cows can get, they often get mastitis. It's an infection of the udder where there can be open sores. It can be very painful to be milked. And in conventional farming, you give the cows antibiotics and medications to clear up the mastitis, right? Well, on organic farms, they cannot give them antibiotics or medications. They'd have to take her out of production if they did. And of course, they want to make money. So they don't. And I had large animal veterinarians confide in me that they saw cows with the most advanced cases of mastitis suffering the most at the milking on organic farms because they weren't giving them the medications, the antibiotics to clear up infections. So it can be even worse for the animals. They suffer terribly in animal agriculture.
Wow. Yeah, that's probably one of the harshest parts that about animal agriculture that people really shy away from, don't want to look at. Really quick, we just have a couple seconds left for you to remind us about the event coming up February 2nd.
You want me to?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, so it's the Mindful Eating Film and Food Festival, Saturday, February 2nd. First film is at 12 o'clock. We're going to have 4 films during the day on various topics. You can go to mindfuleatingfilmfest.com to get the information.
And tickets.
Tickets through Eventbrite. And that takes you right there, the mindfuleatingfilmfest.com.
That's great. And people who aren't interested in the films can still attend the event for free, right?
Absolutely. We're going to have tables and food and information, all free. You can just come for the little expo.
Yeah, you pay for some of the food and the beer and wine.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Hope Bohanec and Dave Osborn, for joining us today to talk about veganism, and Stephen Hurwitz.
I thought you'd never say that, never get to me. I was just waiting.
Aw. Hey, KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. Please tune in next Thursday at 11 for Let's Talk Call-In Radio.